Hi, Gary from ATVtracks.net, the largest track dealer in the world. We have a lot of projects going on. We make them for the Suzuki Carry, the Geo Tracker, the Samurai, even a few Jeeps we make custom kits for. Our project this year is basically the new Daihatsu Hijet. Very, very nice machine, imported. It's sold by a local dealer up here. It has dip lock, it has heater, it has air conditioning, a lot of options, and it has a factory 4-inch lift, so when we put tracks on, there's no frame modifications to it. Very, very nice rig. Comes in a stick shift, manual, or automatic. I do notice on these newer Daihatsus here, they have a lot more leg room and arm room compared to the old Suzuki Carries and the older ones, the 98s and 94 import trucks. This one here actually a 6-foot person can sit in and drive, which is quite a comfort compared to having your knees up to your chest. Today we're going to show you how to install a set of Camso 4S1 UTV all-season tracks on this machine. Very simple. We have a custom designed bracket. It takes 3 hours to install them, and you can actually run this as a SUV. Raising these up, they're kind of compact, they're kind of tough to raise up. As you can see, I have a lift here, and I put a block on this side, and on the front a short block. You have to be very careful with the hoist. Sometimes I'm even thinking it might be easier with a jack, but this is easier for video, and it is easier once you get it on the hoist to get it up in the air and work on it. Now we'll show you how to install the front plate and the rear plates. I've got the install kit for this Daihatsu Hijet here. Basically, it includes 16 10mm lug nuts for the hubs. It includes 16 lug nuts for the hubs to connect to your machine. These are custom arms that we have put heavy-duty UTV springs on because it's a little heavier rig. We've also, on the bushings, the control arm bushings, we had an extra bushing to eliminate the front of the track from rubbing. Evidently, there's no trimming. There might be a little bit of trimming if you do severe stuff. We have a left front custom bracket, a right front custom bracket. We have a right rear bracket and a left rear bracket. The good thing about these brackets is this main one stays on the machine. This second part here is removable. That way you can keep the bracket on all the time when you want to put your tracks on. 2 bolts and the torsion arm, and you're ready for the rear. We have a vehicle here that we've done half of it. We're going to show you how to install the front plate, and we're going to show you how to install and adjust the rear plate. My tech, Steve, will come in here. My brother, Steve, he's the engineer. We'll be here, and first thing we're going to do now is we're going to show you how to put the custom plate on the front of this. It's very, very simple. You always remember when you put the plate in, this torsion arm bolt has to be in first. So let's show you how simple it is to put in. When you put the hubs on, it's very important that you finger tighten them all. Make sure that that wheel spacer is centered. If you tighten the first one, it's not centered, chances are it will come loose. Right now, that's loose, and then we keep tightening it until it doesn't move. Now we know that the lug nuts have centered the wheel spacer. Pretty simple, but it's amazing how many people, customers, will do it the wrong way. This is the correct way. Now we're going to torque it to manufacturer specs. You should have a torque wedge 95 pounds with most 12mm run. Now we're going to install the front custom bracket. Very simple design. Basically 1 bolt and 1 nut. It's on, so removal is pretty simple when you want to remove it. And you always want to make sure you have your tie rod end bolt connected. So we'll tighten that up. Okay, it's installed. Now we're going to put the track on. Okay, now we're going to run the track up here. We're basically going to line up the stud with the tracks. It's easier to push on. It's easier with 2 people, but that way one can watch. So here, we got it on. Now we're going to put the lug nuts on. And we're going to do the same thing with the lug nuts. We're going to finger tighten and then torque them to the specs. Basically, you can only get the 2 or 3 lug nuts at a time, so it's best to put them on and then turn a little bit. And then when you torque them, you can only torque 3 at a time, then you have to turn a little bit to torque the last one. I recommend you drive the first hour or so to recheck the lug nuts. Sometimes they will loosen up a little bit. Also, you'll see a little bit of oil underneath the cap here. This is an oil bath system. Some of them tend to seep until they get to the bottom of the race, then they'll stop. So it's not a defective part, it's just that they put a little bit too much oil in from the factory. Now we're going to install the anti-rotation arm on the front. And that will keep the track from articulating too forward or back.
That on. Then where do the other one? And that one, and that one. One of these.
So this one here, the torsion arm is so stiff that we're going to try to put the tie rod in first.
Okay,
And
drop it down.
Slide this one in.
Okay, up. Okay, that's it. Oh wow, I didn't lined up. Now this one.
It seems like it's easier this way instead of, if you're really strong, you can pull the torsion arm down, but I think this is the easier way to install it since the bushings are so tight. Okay, we're just going to put the nut and the washer on. We're not going to tighten it all the way because we want it, when we adjust the angle of attack, we want it to slide. When the angle of attack is done, then we're going to tighten it.
Right, we'll tighten that right now.
We are tightening the bolt that holds the tie rod in all the way, very tight. These do have steering limiter clamps on them. On these SUVs, we don't put them on. You can if you want, but you don't need to. Okay, so now the interesting thing about this vehicle is it has adjustable shocks. Sometimes this track is kind of close to the frame here, so we've actually had to trim part of this off here. But I raised this shock up almost all the way to the top, and if I measure from the clamp, I'm at 4 1/4 inches from the top of the bottom clamp to the bottom of the top clamp, 4 1/2 inches. From the factory is about 3 1/2. So it makes the suspension a little stiffer, which you won't notice, but it keeps this track from rubbing. But if all else fails, you can basically trim just a little bit of this corner off and you'll have no issues. So we've installed the front track. When we get done here, when we get the rear track installed, we're going to show you how to adjust the angle of attack on both of them. Now we've got a bracket installed here. This is the bracket that we put on. And basically what we're going to do is we give you longer bolts with 4 washers. So as you pull the original bolt out for your leaf spring, you come in from the other side and you push this in. That way you don't have to struggle too much putting the new bolt in. This plate here, there is a small gusset on the inside. So between the frame and the plate, we give you 4 washers to space it out. Then you have to drill 1 hole on the back side here. There's a hole right here. You drill it right through the frame and there's room to put a nut and bolt. The nut and bolt is included. On this one here, I had to take this cover off, which is 2 bolts. Now this will stay on the vehicle. This is the best part about it because now we're going to take this 2-piece bracket. The tip is towards the front here. We're going to bolt it on here. This is what we're going to connect our torsion arm to. That way, when you want to take your tracks off, 2 bolts, 4 lug nuts, tracks are off. Leave this on. Okay, we'll show you how to put it on now. Okay, so the bracket is installed. Now we're going to install the anti-rotation bracket for the rear track here. Okay, this is a custom bracket that I made the springs a little tighter on. So it goes to the inside, whichever way looks straighter. So you got the spacer, a washer, and the bracket, and it's going to go on the bottom hole here, right here. I put an extra hole in case you have a different bracket, or if you want to turn it around, whichever works best. Now we're going to connect it to the actual track, and there is 2 washers and a bushing in the middle. Okay, we'll tighten these. Make sure you tighten these all the way, because there is a spacer in the middle. You cannot leave any slop, otherwise you will lose the part. Okay, we'll tighten this one here. Okay. So we've installed this now. Now I'm going to show you how to adjust the angle of attack. I'm also going to show you the spacing on the rear here. Okay. We've got this connected now. Now we need to adjust the angle of attack. We're going to do it on the ground, but first of all, I'm going to show you why. This track, when it's sitting level, you'll see a 1/2 inch gap right here. What that does, that keeps this track, if you're backing up, if we had a 2 inch gap there, this track would hang down here. Then the track flips over on you. That's why we only want about 1/4 to 1/2 inch gap. Okay, now we're going to lower it and show you how to do angle of attack. The reason we put cardboard on is if you lower it on cement, the track will not move. As you watch when we lower it, it hits the ground, the cardboard moves. That means the track is actually loose, like it's supposed to be, instead of stuck on the ground. Now watch the cardboard, it's going to move. The track moved this time, and the cardboard moved in and out a little bit. If I step on it, that's where you want to do your adjustment at sitting level. So now we're going to go do the rear adjustment, and then we'll do the front adjustment. So basically, we've already adjusted this here. Basically, this nut here is supposed to be loose, so the spring is loose. Now what you do is, as it's sitting on the ground, this bracket goes in the middle here. You can see the gap. That's what you want, 1/4 to 1/2 inch gap. When you get that gap there, then you take your nut up to the spring and give it 3 full turns. That's all you do on the rear. It's done. What this is doing is that track, that bolt that is connected to the track there, has no pressure on it except for 3 turns of the spring. That way, if you have to lift up the track to stick it in there, or push down the track to stick it into the hole there, then it's not adjusted right. It should slide, basically loosen the spring where it is. You adjust the front nut to 1/4 or 1/2 inch, then spring tight, 3 turns. So now we've tightened the main bolt to the tie rod end. This is loose, this nut is loose, it's an 18 millimeter. Okay, it's loose. Now, there's 2 rubber bushings here. The only purpose of this rubber bushing is if you make the tie rod end longer, it pushes the front track up. If you make the tie rod end shorter, it pushes it back. You're going to move it up or back until you lay a ruler across the, hey Steve? Yeah. Grab me a ruler and I'll just do it on the inside here. Okay, so I laid a tape measure across the top. Right now, it's exactly 12 inches, which is what we want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tighten the lock nut, 18 millimeter. Now that that's tight, and you should hold this here so you don't put so much pressure on the rest of the torsion arm. There you go. Now we tighten these two top bolts. That makes sure the rubber is basically square. Okay, so we've done our final adjustment. There is a bubble on here, and it's pretty close. Now the bubble is a guide for quick adjustment. The exact adjustment is the ruler technique. I'll go outside and show you outside. Okay, so now a lot of customers don't really know how to check their angle of attack on the front. Angle of attack on front is very important. The manufacturer says 12 inches. Ruler across the top, we are exactly at 11 3/4, anywhere within 1/4 inch. Now, if you have a rubbing issue, you could lower the front 1/4 inch and make this 11 1/2. It really isn't going to affect much on this type of a vehicle, but you'd be surprised how many customers come in and it's at 10, so it's way too low, or 13, it's way too high. That means whoever installed it did not do it properly. But right now, I would say once a year, you check your checks, and if it's between, they say 12 inches plus or minus an eighth of an inch, you're okay. Right now, we're done. We can go play. Another custom job by ATVtracks.net for the 2022 Daihatsu Hijet. We have an application or instructions on our website. Call us if you have any questions. Nate, Willie, Gary, Steve, ATVtracks.net, 866-243-8359. We will also have a link to the supplier, Mini Trucks Northwest, up the street that sells the vehicle. Thank you.